Yeah, honestly, you have to stay true to who you are. It will be a hard journey. You have to stay true to your art because that makes you authentic. That makes your work authentic. Art is like hitting pause on a chaotic movie, you know. It forces you to be present, whether you're creating or experiencing it. You stop scrolling, breathe a little slower, and suddenly the world doesn't seem like it's spinning out of control. I'd say, it's a love letter to stillness in a very loud world.
Welcome to In Sync, a podcast about the lives we all want to really live and figuring out how to get there. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to In Sync. I'm your host, Anmol Irfan, and our episode today is all about storytelling with a twist. Because we're joined by none other than creative director and production designer Bushra Sultan, who was on Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia list for 2024. From critiquing traditional bridal expectations to sparking cultural conversations, her bold narratives blend art with advocacy, inspire change, and challenge societal norms. Bushra's campaigns and stories are surreal and creative, and they inspire her audiences to think beyond the norm. And her work has inspired me to think beyond the norm of what I would usually think of when it comes to well-being, the focus of this podcast. So Bushra, I'm so excited to be talking to you about this today.
Hi, Anmol. I didn't know I was all of those things. But thank you so much for such a generous introduction.
No, I definitely think you are. Your work's something that I've been following for some time, and as someone who loves art, it's so nice to see a Pakistani woman doing all of the things that you're doing and, making the decisions that you're making. And one of the things that it's gotten me thinking is I'm sure there's so much that goes on in your head, your inspiration, your motivation. I'd love to know what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Mostly calls from my vendors, my clients, my team. But when I'm not working and I have my off days, my helper who comes in with my warm cup of water with lemon and honey, because I have a lot of issues with my stomach. I bloat a lot, so that's also why I get out of bed. But on a philosophical level, it's the fear of missing out on life. I've wasted a lot of years of my life just being in my room and doing nothing. 3 to be very precise. And after that, I decided to never let that happen again. So mostly like fear of missing out on life, an excellent cup of chai. I'm a genuine chai head. And I think the endless possibilities of chaos I can stir up with my work, that really excites me and gets me out of the bed.
I love the chai motivation. I think a lot of us can, very wholeheartedly relate to that love.
I'm a breakfast person. I look forward to having breakfast every day. So that's also another reason.
That sounds very well-being focused. I like this. It's a good tone to set for our podcast. I think all of us for self-care and focusing on what we like and what works for us.
Yeah.
That you said just now is the chaos that it creates is so interesting because as a viewer, when I see your work, that's a very interesting word to associate with it. I mean, and not necessarily in the negative sense. I love that word personally. I think we should all create a little. But a lot of times, you'd see the same people using that kind of bold work or loud and using these words in a very negative sense or saying that it can make people comfortable. Even though I would think that this kind of work is really much needed in this day and age. Why is it so important to create that chaos and pick the topics that you do?
Because Anmol, someone has to. There's enough content out there trying to keep everyone cozy and unbothered. I'm here to poke the bubble, start the uncomfortable conversations, and remind people that art isn't just for decoration. It's actually a mirror. And sometimes we all need to take a hard look at ourselves. And as a person, I'm all about self-evaluation, Sometimes we have to do that in order to grow.
100%. I think it's so important, and by all means, at least from my perspective, please keep poking. We all need to be poked. And
Yeah, so
I just had this
sorry, you
conversation
were saying?
yesterday with someone about art being uncomfortable, and this is probably going to be a really unpopular opinion for some people who are listening, but we ended up talking about Barzakh,
Yeah.
show that just recently came out, and everyone heard of it because of the controversy. And I was telling that friend that so there's parts of it that do make you uncomfortable, and I was recommending it to her anyway. What do you think about this controversy that comes up around art pieces that are uncomfortable?
So I think art is something that makes you feel, right? And people who view art come from different walks of life with different experiences. Some art, like if we're talking about my art, it will hit differently. And like, every person who sees my art will feel differently about it, right? Will have a different, I think, connection with that piece because of their experiences. Controversy, art is supposed to be controversial, It is supposed to do that. It is supposed to make you feel things. It's, like I said, it's not for decoration. It's a mirror. And when you're trying to when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, it shows you so many things and makes you feel so many things, and some of which you might not like or accept. So to me, art is supposed to be controversial and not politically correct.
Yeah, I love the way that you've put it. But at the same time, and even in your answer, it comes off as so loaded and so heavy. And I'm sure that doing the work that needs to be done is heavy and quite emotional. So what are your tips for managing your own well-being within this space while you're doing this work?
My secret, I think in colors. When emotions get overwhelming, I assign them a shade. Like anger is a fiery orange, joy is a crisp yellow, anxiety is electric blue. It sort of helps me compartmentalize and helps me detach a little and process them visually, because I'm a very visual person who sees and thinks in visuals. I attach words later. My advice would be to find your own weird coping mechanism, anything that works for you. But for that, you also, even for that to happen, you have to spend time with yourself. You have to learn about yourself. You have to understand yourself, right? And not lie to yourself. Because this field demands that you feel deeply, but it doesn't mean you have to drown in it, So the idea, the whole crux of the entire crux of what I just said would be to really get to know yourself first, and then see what really works for you as a person, even if it's really weird.
Oh my God, when you were speaking, I was just envisioning all the colors that you were saying associated with those. And it was so cool because I've never thought about it like that.
I'm just a very weird person.
I think weird is a good thing. Lately, I have started embracing it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the first step.
Yeah, definitely. But I think one of the possible, consequences of perhaps being too in touch with yourself or knowing yourself too well can, I think, come when it comes to working with other people, especially in our society. And I'm sure working with brands is, a whole other Pandora's box. Do you ever feel by brand requirements? I am assuming by your laugh, there's a lot to say there. How do you balance, your own creativity with the requirements of any given project?
Before I say anything, I think that has changed for me drastically, because now people call me and say, brands call me and say, we have a very weird idea I hope you like it. It's right up your alley, right? So I like how I've created my own niche. But of course, brand requirements are like those relatives at weddings who give unsolicited advice. You can't ignore them, but you also can't let them dictate your entire evening. So how I sort of tackle this is by finding clever loopholes to sneak in my own flavor while making sure the brand is also happy, because of course they're the ones who are curating the entire shoot. But I mean, for me it has changed now, but it used to happen.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any advice for other artists who may be going through the same thing on how to manage all of this?
Yeah, honestly, you have to stay true to who you are. It will be a hard journey. You have to stay true to your art, because that makes you authentic. That makes your work authentic, right? Make sure you do that, but it's a hard road. That's one thing for sure. But you will get your due recognition in your own time. So you have to sort of be patient with that as well. I have been very patient. I had to be.
Yeah, I think patience is something that we all need to practice a little bit more.
Yeah, because in our generation, everybody wants everything right now. They want success right now. They want money right now. They want to be famous right now. They want romance right now. They want to find love right now. You know, it doesn't work like that. You have to do the hard work. You have to see everything through, and then eventually it will come to you. Have to be consistent.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, you know, in this world, like you said, everything's become so fast paced. There's so much need or demand for instant gratification. But I think
100%.
is something that, you know, steps out of that. It helps viewers step out of that, at least, you know, from my perspective, again, as someone who consumes art. But for you as an artist, does art perhaps allow you, or you think the people around you, to find balance and slow down within this fast-paced world?
I keep, art is like hitting pause on a chaotic movie. It forces you to be present, whether you're creating or experiencing it. You stop scrolling, breathe a little slower, and suddenly the world doesn't seem like it's spinning out of control. I'd say it's a love letter to stillness in a very loud world.
Yeah, I think you've encapsulated the feelings of so many of us when we consume art and why we consume art. And it's just made me all the more interested to see what goes on behind the scenes of a Bushra Sultan.
It's very chaotic.
Is there a favorite project that you worked on recently, and why? Tell us a little bit about what happens in a project.
Yes. 2 days ago, I worked on this project for...
Audio. So, pause.
Okay, so to answer your question, 2 days ago, I worked on this project for an international brand. I was treating it like any other brand, of course. But later I found out that it's one of USA's biggest brand, right? Then I was like, okay. And they're very particular about who they are and their brand image, right? And I loved it because the brand knew exactly what they wanted. And I love when that happens. I love interacting with people who know who they are or what they want in life, right? So I think that was a very interesting experience for me.
That sounds really cool. And I'd love to know a little bit more about, what goes on behind like the creative process of whether you're deciding to do something, what sort of the challenges are of working on a project, and why you come away from a project thinking this was one of my favorites. Like, what makes a project stand out like that?
I don't take a day off, right? I'm working constantly, even when I'm not working. I like the part where I'm researching, and I come up with an idea and it really excites me. That's what I love about what I do. And the process sort of includes me mostly researching and bringing everything together and crafting an idea. And then I get my team on board, whoever I want to collaborate with. That also goes into research. And yeah, and if a brand wants to come on board, great. If they don't, I do it on my own, because I want to create, keep creating art, like regardless of if I have a brand on board or not. So that's one thing. What makes a project stand out? I think more than what happens on the shoot, it comes down to what really brought the project together. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's so much that goes on to, like behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I cherish, more than anything else, I cherish connections. I cherish the bonds that I create on shoots. It's very hard to find like-minded people because I'm very big on ethical values. I want to work with people, only with people who share similar values. Of course, we can't all be the same, but it's very important that I find those people. I don't like being scammed. I don't like being lied to. I don't like incompetence. So, at this point in my life, I'm really content with the team I have brought together. Like, it really puts me at ease because I know that I found my people finally. And now I can go on to mentoring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's so nice that you've been able to find that space and that community for yourself, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. And as human beings, you need connection, no matter what kind of connection that is. And I think sometimes we underestimate just that general community around us. Like, we've labeled relationships like, oh, you need to get married at this age, or important, etc. But I think we really underestimate the power of chosen family around us sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. Because we're working most of the time, right? And in this field, you don't know how much time a project is going to take. So you end up spending a lot of time together. I want to be able to trust my team. Trust is like trust and respect. These are two things that I really value. And I want to be around people I can trust and respect, and vice versa, of course.
I think that's definitely so important. And also, side note, does your team know about your color theory?
No, I don't think so. I'm just a very calm person on set. I don't believe in shouting, or I feel you can be nice and get things done, which is a very unheard of practice in this industry, right? Yeah. So like, I don't think they know this about me because I'm not very vocal. But yeah.
But
they do know that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
But they do know that I'm a calm person on set. And even if they make mistakes, it's okay. I'm there to fix it, because as a leader, that's what you should do, rather than, pinning it on other people, or they're working for and with you to learn. I think that's very important. You have to make sure that you are a kind person to your team, subordinates.
You sound like a really cool boss.
I am a cool boss, I think. I am.
So in that case, given how you've described yourself and everything we've talked about in this conversation, what color would you define yourself as, and why?
Yeah, for myself, I only wear browns, blacks, white, or very earthy, neutral tones. This is so weird for somebody who thinks in colors and rainbow colors, right? I would describe myself, I don't know, I really resonate with white.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that I'm a saint, not at all. But I weirdly resonate with that color a lot.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Not a lot of people say that. And I think that's a really nice way to leave our listeners pondering a little bit more about why you're a white, and something to look forward to in terms of just being able to explore more of your work. So Bushra, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm sure that our listeners have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, and I have learned so much about your process and your work, and it's just making me all the more excited to see what you come up with next.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful and a very, I loved your questions. I really did. From the moment you sent me these questions, I was very excited because they're so different from what I usually get.
I'm so glad to hear that. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in once again. And I'll be linking Bushra's work and Echo's media as usual in the description below. So please stay tuned for everything that Bushra's coming up with, and also for our next episode coming soon.